subscription, the plan is we understand their needs first. We make a recommendation. 9 times out of 10, they accept our recommendation. Most of the time, that's included in the membership. So the decision to participate is not a financial one. We're investing in them so that we can make them the kind of client who would never want to leave, and that gets returned back to us in multiples.
Welcome along to the FBP Intensives, brought to you by ABC Financial. I'm your host, Chantal Broderick. This is a 4-part series where one expert guest will present on one key topic each week for 4 weeks. During each show, you will receive practical tips and actions to implement in your fitness business. Our first topic for the FBP Intensives is retention, and our special guest is Mr. Retention himself, Paul Brown. Paul is known for his groundbreaking work in member retention, exercise adherence, and membership growth. He's the creator of the Face2Face Retention Systems, which are the standard operating procedure for several of the world's most successful and prestigious health club groups, with many millions of success stories to date and growing rapidly. Paul, welcome to the series, and thank you so much for coming on as our special guest to share your expertise on retention.
Thank you, Chantal. I'm delighted to join you today.
Now, Paul, tell us, what are our 4 focus areas that we'll be looking at over the next 4 weeks?
Okay, well, I thought for starters we might go straight for what matters the most. I'm sure your listeners just want to work out immediately what's the biggest challenges that I'm facing, or what areas can I adopt immediately. Then from there, we'll look at some of the current trends and the traditions that have worked for us in the past, and try to see if there's a happy medium where we can enjoy both what's modern but also what's worked historically. Then I thought we might look at retention in optional programs, not only in membership dues-based businesses, but businesses that look at secondary spend options and how can they increase and retain those clients for longer. And then last but not least, the measures of success. How can clients and clubs out there understand what's working and what's not? What are the key performance indicators that can motivate them and their team to stay on track?
Okay, so let's dive straight into what matters the most. Can you tell us, what is the single most crucial factor to retaining a client?
I'm actually going to divide that into 2 if you don't mind, Chantal. I think number 1, it's very well known that convenience matters. People don't drive past a good club to get to a great club. We've all got that little radius of accessibility. And if you are a convenient location that ticks most of the boxes for a client, they're going to stick around more longer. Second thing I believe is relationships. While convenience matters, if they don't have a relationship with you, they'll eventually feel no loyalty to stay when an alternative or more convenient location comes along. So yes, you've got to be handy to them, but you've got to have a connectivity with those clients for them to stick around.
So, Paul, how would you define member retention?
Look, it's pretty straightforward. There are 5 key ingredients, I believe, to any product, whether you're a health and fitness club or whether you're selling breakfast cereal. Number 1, people have to want what you offer. They have to want health and fitness. They have to want to do what it is you sell. Number 2, they've got to understand how they do it properly and therefore mostly enjoy doing it. If they don't get it or it's uncomfortable, they're going to repel. Number 3, they have to do it often enough to justify the price. When we talk about price of fitness memberships, it really comes down to value. Do you use it often enough? If I work out at a club once a month that charges me $60 a month, that's a $60 workout. But if I'm there 3 days a week, clearly the value is generated much higher. So third one is got to use it often. The fourth one is they have to see that it's working. They have to see the benefits. And many of the benefits in health and fitness aren't necessarily visible. We have a saying, the best thing about our clubs isn't how great you look, but how great you feel. And people need to be able to quantify that. They need to be able to see the before and after and recognize those differences. And then the fifth one, all those things are available in a number of locations and a number of sources. They've got to want it from you. They've got to want to have a connectivity with you and your brand. They've got to like the experience of being there. They've got to trust you, and they've got to say, I know I have choices, but you are my number one choice. And I believe friends don't leave friends. So if you can get that relationship going, that is the underlying result.
So, Paul, in your experience there, where do you think that most health and fitness businesses actually go wrong?
Oh boy, that's a very, very big question, Chantel. It's not for me to criticize other businesses. You know, clubs have got to define what their own model is. Some of the models out there that are very profitable and very successful simply aren't designed to retain clients. They're designed for volume, they're designed for low yield but a high volume, and they can suffer some degree of turnover and survive that quite well. So I wouldn't sit here and criticize them and say they've got it wrong. But for the businesses that believe they want and need to retain their clients, they're a membership-based business. The yield from those members is worth protecting, and the cost of acquisition is too high to constantly be churning over clients. In that situation, I just don't believe to this day clubs take retention seriously. I believe they put the same amount of effort into their investment in their facilities, into their sales and their marketing efforts. They put a lot of effort in those areas, but then they give retention lip service. I believe the number one mission clubs should do is they should recognize the long-term value of a customer and then find out why they quit. Most businesses don't understand why their clients quit, or they find out too late. You should be able to identify the needs of these customers early on and then offset any roadblocks they might come up against. So again, number one, is your business the kind of business that needs to take retention seriously? And if so, take it seriously.
Okay, Paul, so how about we have a look at this? Do you think you can actually quantify for us the parameters of a business that would most benefit with a focus on client retention?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if we look at the yield per customer, I hate talking about customers as dollar values or points or units. For me, every member matters. Every member matters, whether they're a concession member paying the most discounted rate you offer, whether they won a prize at the local fair, or whether they're paying you top dollar. Every member matters. But if you were going to quantify which clubs again would matter the most from a retention point of view, it's where there is a longevity. You know, you can have a business that has a very high turnover because people are students or you're in a very mobile population. But at the end of the day, if you've got people who work or live near you that have no need to go elsewhere, you've got to go out of your way to keep those customers long term. Certainly there's a dollar yield per client, number one. Then you've also got to look at the reputation value. Is looking after a customer going to give you the kind of word of mouth reputation value that means your marketing spend can be lessened because your reputation in itself is how you attract more clients? And then the third thing to factor is the pride factor of staff. If you've got a product that staff are proud of, if your employees, if your team go to work every day believing they're making a difference, they're much more likely to pass that belief on to their clients. So again, if you've got staff, number one, if you're a model without staff, you probably don't belong in this conversation. Or if you've got a model where you just don't care how long people stay, again, not an issue. But when you're a people business and membership matters, retention matters.
Okay, so keeping that in mind, Paul, how would you actually go about identifying who it is in your membership base that needs that sort of approach and I guess who doesn't?
Very good. You know, and not everybody does, let's be fair. There are some clients who are going to be totally independent. They've survived whatever induction journey the fitness industry has offered them in the past. They're self-starters. They're the kind of people who learn to drive on their own or picked up a guitar and learned to play on their own. Fitness might come naturally to them. We have a model in our process that identifies 6 key areas to address whether the client has a need or not. The first one is what we call confidence. Does someone have the ability to walk into any fitness environment and just go at it without any intimidation, without needing any support or help? Number 2 is habit. Do they already have a regular exercise routine? That means, working out almost as often as you brush your teeth, most days of the week. If you've got that habit in place, maybe you don't need our help in that area. The third one is enjoyment. There's a risk that even the most longest experienced fitness person can run out of ideas and get bored or stuck in a rut. So do they enjoy it? Do they like doing it? Are they someone who gravitates towards activity, or are they more likely to sit back and watch others have all the fun? The fourth one is challenge. Do they know how to safely challenge themselves to push to get the results they're after? Not so hard they run the risk of injury or overexertion, but certainly not taking it so easy their body suffers no adaptation. Then the fifth one is knowledge. How well do they understand what to do, how to do, why to do it? And a lot of people walk into our clubs acting as if they know what they're doing. But when you dig a little bit deeper, their understanding is either archaic or, quite frankly, insufficient. And then last but not least, there's a social element to it. Do people feel comfortable when they come into a club? Do they feel like they belong there? So our model is we identify these 6 things. We profile every single client coming through our doors in our clubs to establish where they are on those 6 levels. And anybody who scores a certain number, we've got a tipping point of 4 out of 5. Anything below that, we feel we have an obligation to intervene and to help that person so they can become, just like you or I, addicted to fitness because they recognize, love it, and they wouldn't go anywhere else.
So with that checks model that you've just taken us through, how do you go from the model and the outline to then executing a plan to actually match each of those needs that you've just taken us through?
Excellent. And again, a very detailed answer, but if I summarize it very quickly, at that checks model, if we've got someone who's very high in all those 6 areas, they may be simply, you're good to go, They want to train independently. We don't get in their way because we don't want to upset them by forcing them to be handheld. But then when we identify any of those 6 areas that do need assistance, we can map out a plan for them. We've already got a relatively systemized induction journey that most of our clients go through. We're able to then streamline and tailor that. Some might go all the way through, some might take partial of it. We also have to establish whether group exercise is an appropriate model or whether they need more the convenience of being able to come in and work out on the gym floor independently. And then you have your high need clients or the clients who really don't want to have to think too much for themselves, perfect for the personal training environment. So they're the ones we'll introduce to our PT, to our boot camps, or to our group training programs that are actually a structured coaching zone area. So the short answer is the prescription, the plan is we understand their needs first. We make a recommendation. 9 times out of 10, they accept our recommendation. Most of the time, that's included in the membership. So the decision to participate is not a financial one. We're investing in them so that we can make them the kind of client who would never want to leave, and that gets returned back to us in multiples.
Paul, today is all about really setting the scene for our 4-part series with our focus on retention. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about what we can expect to learn in the next 3 installments of, let's call it Retention Rules with Paul Brown, Mr. Retention?
Sure. Well, yeah, thank you. I thought we'd discuss next the current trends. Everyone's always looking at what's new and what's next, and then look historically at what we've done. I believe if we look back at the fitness industry, you'll see there's been lots of great ideas that have come and go, and there's been lots of ideas that seem like a great idea at the time, and they failed. As I listen to many of your podcasts over the last 200-odd podcasts, some of your best presenters have all said the same thing. Many of their greatest lessons have come from failure. I think we can look historically at what the fitness industry has learned from those successes and failures, and then see how we make the most of current trends. There are some practices in the fitness industry right now that I personally believe are doomed to fail also, but they are right now hotly popular. I'm happy to stand up and swim against the crowd and say, here's my view, take it or leave it, but that's what I predict the future will look like. So trends and traditions. Then the second one there is going to be going back to the optional programs. I challenge the fitness industry's current addiction to personal training as an onboarding option. And I want to talk about why connecting one member with one individual person and making that person the singular link that they have at the club, I want to explore why that might be reaped with some challenges. There are some benefits, no argument, and there's definitely some trainers out there doing some amazing work. I just really believe we can leverage their skills better. And I believe there's a better way of exposing multiple personalities to individuals so they're able to find the compatibility partner to take them through their fitness journey. And I want to help businesses out there increase their yield per client, be successful at selling secondary products, but not let that get in the way of their primary core revenue source of memberships. And then last but not least, going back through the measures of success, I can give you some KPIs of today's activities that can predict tomorrow's outcome. If you look at a member retention of a client, you can trace back how long they stay and how happy they were right back to what happened to them early on. I've been saying this for 21 years and it hasn't changed in all those years. I can show you specific numbers of things happening in your club today that can predict what will happen 2 years from now with that client or maybe 3 weeks from now with that client. So I'd love to share some of those measures of success and have your listeners out there enjoy more rewards themselves.
That sounds like a jam-packed and very valuable 3 weeks on the way. Now, before we close off our very first episode of the FBP Intensives, Paul, are there any actions that you would recommend that our listeners do to set themselves up so that the next 3 weeks that we spend with you are valuable and we make the absolute most out of them for our own individual fitness businesses?
Yes, there are many actions. Probably the first one I would say is try to find out from your staff right now why they think their customers, their members, aren't coming back and doing the programs that they've been given. Go to the workout drawer you've got or go to the applications, the apps that you're using in your phones and your tablets, and look at the workout history of clients who started off with all great intention. Ask your fitness team why they think these people aren't staying the course, because you and I both know there's a lot of great success out there, but for everyone who is, there's probably 2 or 3 who aren't. See if your staff have got their own ideas and listen very carefully to what they've got to say. They might have some great ideas. The second thing I would look at is I would start to study the lifespan of each and every membership. And there's been a lot of support of that in the last few years, a lot of great reports coming out suggesting that this is true. Again, I've been saying for a long, long time now, longevity of membership is your first indicator. Look at the date your members joined, look at the date they expired, and then look at the last visit before they expired. Now, I'm going to make a prediction out there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make a prediction that there's a 5-month typical tipping point. I'm going to make a prediction that 5 months after the average person joins is when they completely stopped using your club and found a way to cancel their membership, even if they've got a contract. See if I'm right or wrong on those couple of points, and then you might come back listening in the next episode with your pen in hand.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. There's some great actions to take away from today. I'm really looking forward to the next 3 weeks, spending it with you and learning more about retention for our businesses.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Chantel.
Thanks to our podcast partners, ABC Financial. You can download a full transcription of this show. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and in the search bar, type retention intensive. ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service that is second to none, choose ABC Financial. You can request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com. Thank you for joining us for our first episode. Make sure that you join us next week when we discuss trends and traditions. That show will be available to download from iTunes, and you can also find it at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. I leave you today with a reminder of what Paul Brown said. Most businesses don't understand why their members quit, or they find out when it's too late. I encourage you to use this as a catalyst. Think about what you can do today and what you can do in the week ahead to better connect with your members and to better understand them. I'm Chantal Broderick, and you've been listening to the FBP Intensive Series.